Hey everyone, welcome to my Python programming tutorial series. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about variables and other concepts such as immutability versus mutability, indexing, and slicing. Now, a couple things to note about Python. Python is pretty beginner friendly because it is dynamically typed. So what that means is that you actually don't need to tell Python what the variable type you're trying to make is. So in languages such as like C++ and Java, you have to declare the variable you are trying to create of some sort of type. Another thing to note about Python is that there's no real distinction between primitive and non-primitive variables. As far as I know, every variable or every type in Python is a class, so there's no real distinction like there is in again, C++ or Java between primitive variables and non-primitive variables. So to start off, there are four main types of variables, and those are integers, floats, booleans, and strings. Now, obviously, there are more data types or variable types apart from those four, such as like lists, tuples, dictionaries, files, and sets, and we will go over a good majority of these. However, there are quite a bit of types in Python, and obviously you can make your own, but we will see that in more of the object-oriented lessons later on. So for now, let's start off with one operator. Obviously this isn't a tutorial on operators, however you do need to know this one. In upcoming lessons I will go over more in depth about operators, but this operator right here, the equals operator, it's not the mathematical equals operator where you say like, okay, well 5 equals 5, or like, I don't know, 5 does not equal 4. In Python, the equals operator is actually an assignment operator. So what that means is that Python will evaluate the right-hand side of the expression of the equal sign right here, and it will assign whatever the value is on the right side to the variable name on the left side. So the left side of the equal sign actually shouldn't be something like 5, it should be a name. Maybe for this example we want to call the variable name 5, and we're going to assign the value 5 to it. So again, the key takeaway is that this equal sign is an assignment operator, it's not the mathematical equality operator. And again, what Python does, evaluates the right hand side, assigns it to the left hand side. So that brings us to our first variable type. As you saw before, we did something like 5, and then it were to equal to 5. And now, if we log what 5 is, well, we could see that the variable name 5 stores the integer value 5. And so this is the first data type that we're going to be introduced to. It's called an integer. And basically, an integer is like a number without a decimal point. Now, obviously, we can go ahead and rename that 5 to anything we want. We could say x equals 5, and then both 5 will be 5 and x will now be 5. So both of these variable names will now hold the same value 5. Now the next data type is called a float. It's that's how you spell it. And basically a floating point or a float point is a number with a decimal in it. So maybe we say something like y is equal to 2.75, and that is a float. Now I forgot to mention for the first example, but we can easily check what type of variable is just by using the type function in Python. And obviously I will go over functions in later lessons, but just know that if you write type and then open and close parentheses and pass your variable name in it, just press enter, it will log you or tell you the type of variable that you have. So y is of type float, and obviously if we do the same thing for the 5 that we had before, it's going to be of class integer. And same thing with type x. X and 5 from here and here, those are integers. However, this 2.75 is a floating point because it has a decimal point. Now the next type is a Boolean. So a Boolean is simply true or false. Now in Python, true is written with a capital T for some reason. In other languages it's written with a lowercase, but that's just like a minor thing. It's either true or it can be false. So either one of these two, these are known as Booleans. And we can assign those Booleans to variables just like we can with integers and floating points. So again, we can do something like t is equal to true. And again, if we want to use type just to check what type variable we have, we can just say type and then pass it the variable name, which is t, and it will tell us that t is of type Boolean. And lastly, this brings us to the last kind of main sort of type of variables. I call them main because the other data types are sort of just like collections of these types, or they're kind of build-offs of these variable types, of these four main ones. And the last one is a string. What a string is essentially it's just a sequence of characters. So you can think of it as like a word. If you want to get more in depth, technically they are arrays of characters, but that's kind of beyond the scope of the lesson. Just know that a string is simply a sequence of characters, and we can define a string by using these double quotes, and Python is actually pretty lenient because it lets you use single quotes too to define a string. So let's say the first string that we want to create is it's going to be this. This is a string. And then we want to assign this string to something, I don't know, let's say first underscore string. And now once we click enter, we have created our first string, and that is going to equal to this is a string. The actual string value is going to be stored within this variable first underscore string. So if I log it, you could see, and again, Python's pretty lenient, so I can do something like, I don't know, a is equal to, and then use single quotes, this is a string 2. So both of these are strings, and I can prove that to you by using type class string, and then obviously I can do the same thing with the second string that we created. I know that in other languages the single quotes usually mean a type character, but Python doesn't have a char or character, however you want to. So a couple of things to note about strings. Strings are immutable, and this is the first time you're going to hear the word within the lesson, but basically if an object is mutable, it means that once it's created, you can go back and change that object. So let's say we were to create this string. If the string was mutable, we could go back and change the value that a holds. We would be able to actually change what this string contains. In Python, one thing to know is that strings are immutable. So what that means is you can't actually change what the value of a is. There's no way to go and to change this string. Once a has been assigned to this string, that's it. A is going to equal to this string until you change it. So we can change a to be like, okay, changed string, and you could see that once I log a, well, a is now going to be the new string that we assigned it. But this is not us changing the original string. This is us reassigning the variable a. So note that in Python, strings are immutable, meaning once you create them, they cannot be changed. Another cool thing about Python is that strings are actually indexable. I'm going to say that a is equal to, we're going to make it a string, and then we're going to say hello. So a is hello, and now we can index this string. H is of index 0. Python is a 0-based indexing system. All the indexes start from 0. So H is at position 0, E is at position 1, L is at position 2, the other L is at position 3, and O is at position 4. So if we were to say something like A at, let's say we want the E, so we would say A at 1, and that would correspond to the E. Now obviously we can assign this result to a variable, so we can call this, like, I don't know, second char, so the second character of A, and we can just say A at 1, and now if we log second char, well, it's going to hold the value E. And note, this is still of type string, so if I were to log the type of this, you can see it's still a string. Now the last feature I'm going to be talking about with strings is slicing. Actually, for indexing and slicing, we're going to see examples of this with the later data types too. Basically what a slice is it will take part of a string. So indexing will take a character at a given position. However, a slice will take like a part of a string. So for example, again, if we have the string A, which is hello, we can slice this string, and let's say we just want this LO. In order to do the slicing, we need to tell Python where we want to start and where we want to end. We want to start at index, this is index 0, this is index 1. So we want to start at index 1, and then we want to end at this index, the final index. The last index is actually exclusive in Python, so it'll go up to that index, but not including that index. Let's count the index of O. So this is index 0, this is index 1, 2, 3, and this is index 4. So if we take a slice of A, and again, A is the string hello, if we take a slice from 1 to 4, we are going to get LO. again, because it's going to start at 1 and it's going to go up to the 4th index, but not including it. So you can see when I log this, what we will get. Now, like we did with the indexing, we can save this result to a variable. So let's say we're going to call it L, and it's going to be A from 1 to 4. And again, it's just going to be this slice. If we log L, we'll see that L is corresponding to this slice. And again, this is a string, so I can log the type of it, and it's going to be of class string. Python also supports negative indexing. So a string, let's use the example of hello again. This string, right, H is at index 0, E is at index 1, and so on. If we wanted to use negative indexing starts from the back and it goes backwards basically. However, it starts from -1 instead of 0. So this O is going to be at index -1. And I can prove that to you, again, if we just create this variable A, that's hello. If I say A at -1, it's just going to grab the last element, which is right here. So I can prove that by just logging what A at -1 is. And likewise, if I do, I don't know, A at -2, well, that's going to grab the L. So as you can see right there. Now, we can also use the same concept for string slicing. And basically, let's say we wanted to recreate L again. We can do that through negative slicing by taking A at. And now let's calculate from where to where we want to slice. We want to slice from this E all the way to, but not including the O. This is at index -1. So we know that we want to slice up to -1. And again, remember the last index is exclusive. And then we want to start from E. So what index is E? E is at index, this is -1, -2, -3, -4. So we can slice A from -4 to 1, and that will give us L like we had before. So you can see we can do it this way, or we can do it using negative indexing. So that's it for this first tutorial on variables. In the next tutorial, we'll be talking about lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries, so stick around for that. Like usual, if you guys are new to the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video.